Hey y'all, this is Culture Soup, where tech, culture, and business collide. It's a podcast that spoons up everything hot from social media. I'm your host, L. Michelle Smith, and each episode we bring you some of the most notable and not yet notable thought leaders in tech, business, and culture. Now, for the continuation of episode number 23, we are going to talk about this leadership conference that Daryl and I attended and delivered keynotes for, and that fireside chat that you just heard. We'll also talk about the importance of HBCUs, and I'll do it with the president of Lane College himself, Dr. Logan Hampton. In part 2 of this special double episode of the Culture Soup podcast. Everybody, we have Dr. Logan Hampton. He is the president of Lane College. And of course, that's where myself and Daryl Bell did keynotes at the inaugural leadership conference this weekend. Hey, Dr. Hampton.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. Listen.
You get some rest?
I tried. My daughter didn't want to give me any. She was happy to see me home.
We worked you hard this past weekend.
Not too hard. It was fun, though.
Hey, before we get started, I know you got a lot of questions you want to ask me. Mm-hmm. You know, that internal journalist wants to come out. But before you start grilling me, let me just thank you.
Oh.
I guess it was in, August? Of 2018?
It was the beginning of August of last year.
We reconnected and started
Detroit, Michigan.
How and when we would get you on the campus and get you before our students.
Right.
And you said in August of 2018
mm-hmm.
that you'd like to come and pour into the students.
Yes.
And your listeners should know that you are a woman of your word.
Aww.
And that you brought it. You came with it.
Thank you.
And did an excellent job in terms of the communication
mm-hmm.
first night as the opening keynote for the conference. I mean, it was just very well received. Everybody's been raving on it. And I was just teasing with a colleague earlier today, just saying, really, I mean, I don't know if you noticed, we just kind of broke it up. I mean,
mm-hmm.
afterwards, the thing ends,
mm-hmm.
it's time for people to go home.
Right.
Or actually, I guess we had that piece where we were to go into this networking piece
right.
that you never made it to.
No.
Until you just came and pulled you out of the room and say, okay.
Yes. And it was students and adults.
Yes.
They all rushed me.
Yes. That was just a cool day. And then thanks for the next day. I mean, you didn't come, do your speech, drop the mic, and then, jump back on the plane. And then you hung around on Saturday and came back and put in some more time.
Absolutely.
And thanks for the fireside chat. This morning, so I get in, yesterday morning now.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday morning, so I get in, we started trying to get the day going and things. And folks were still talking about that exchange that you and Daryl Bell had. And talking in great specificity, about some of the topics that you all talked about. So many thanks. Got to get you back.
By all means, I would love to come back. It would be my pleasure. You guys were excellent hosts. From Chief Joy, who I've written about already. And his name will probably make it into Black Enterprise. What is his first name, by the way? You can tell me offline. I'm writing a story for Black Enterprise about our little adventure before we went to the airport. I don't know if you heard about it.
I did. I heard you guys. I don't know how much you. He was so moved that he was sharing. He was sharing about how moved he was, and I don't want to give the story away.
It's okay. I've already written a bit on my blog, so it's out there. Yeah, people know that we went.
He talked about you all. First of all, you make it to the Civil Rights Museum. You don't have time.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have time to go to the Civil Rights Museum,
right.
And he was able to get the director to give you all a guided tour.
He worked his magic, like for real.
Yeah,
but these people came out and they were like telling everybody to move out the way.
Yeah, so I understand. So you all got the full tour. You got the benefit of the full tour,
mm-hmm.
guided kind of tour. And then when you made it to the site where Dr. King was assassinated,
Well, here's the irony. This show will air on April 4th, which is the day that he was assassinated. So I'm tying that in. At the end of Daryl's episode, we do a moment of silence.
Yeah.
But yeah, the irony is all alphas, Chief Joy, Daryl, yourself, me, of course, AKA, Coretta was too. But the irony was that we would walk in there only days away from his assassination just because Daryl said, I missed seeing this the last time. Let's see if we can squeeze it in. And there we are, standing outside and inside the Lorraine Motel. Like, that was the most powerful thing ever. And, before we left, we're like, we're friends forever. We had bonded.
Chief Joy was just, he was yet emotionally moved as he was just kind of telling the story of how each of you were impacted. Again, I assume Chief Joy has done it before, but it's one of those pieces, I've done it several times with student groups, and I don't know, every time that I, make the journey through, I find myself in that same emotional place.
Yeah. I described it as our grassy knoll.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt.
So anyway, that was special. And we credit Lane for that too, because we were able to make that trip on this trip. So before we go on, let's have a Culture Soup moment. What do you think?
Okay.
Okay. All right.
I'm about this.
Yeah, and I understand, everybody, you have to know that Dr. Hampton is a digital neophyte, and that's okay. We're going to move him into the 21st century if it's the last thing we do. Anyway, hashtag HBCU. See, I'm keeping it very easy for you. That's a gimme, okay?
Yeah.
If I click on that hashtag, I get shouts out and tweets and posts from every HBCU I can even imagine. How many HBCUs are there out there?
A little over 100.
Wow.
Yeah, a little over 100. Just depending on how you ask that question. It's somewhere, 100, 102, 103. These are institutions that were established prior to 1964 and have the designation of historically black college or university. Among them is Lane College that was founded in 1882.
Wow.
I like to say that Bishop Lane, who was our founder, just right on the other side of Reconstruction, I still like to say fresh out of slavery, looked around at his congregations, looked around at his preachers, and determined that they needed a common school education. And he created Lane College so that he might train teachers and preachers to be able to speak and write and to communicate clearly and effectively. And for the last 137 years, we've been on this mission field doing this very important work.
Important work.
And our sister and brother HBCUs, some of whom are land grant institutions founded by a state, some are founded by individuals, organizations that were for the advancement of African American people, and then some like our institution, Lane College, that was founded by a church denomination. So we continue to be closely connected to the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church. And so we're church affiliated. We would bill ourselves as a Christian college. I always tease, though. I say we are more HBCU than we are quote unquote a Christian college. This is just an absolutely dynamic place. But I want to get to that whole notion about HBCU. This is such a beloved community. There's the assets, the gift.
I'm jealous.
And you should be.
I'm so jealous. I'm jealous every time homecoming rolls around. I'm jealous anytime, graduation time comes around. I was blessed to go to Spelman's graduation once before, and that was just amazing. In fact, this was back when Coretta was still alive, and I ran into her at the Spelman Baccalaureate just walking down the hall. These are the types of people that you see, right?
Absolutely. Our graduations, our celebration, I talk about Lane College, and I say, it's all about transformation, liberation, and celebration. And I say, and we know how to celebrate. And we celebrate student success. We celebrate the power of our students' potential. We celebrate their accomplishments, whether it's getting an internship or a new job or making a 3.0 GPA. I mean, we celebrate and encourage our students. You know, at the end of our time together on Saturday, when we wrapped up, our wrap up was about celebrating who it is that we were. So I had the men in our session, in the male session, and the brothers keeper empowerment session, celebrating what did they learn, what were their strengths, and what were their wildest dreams. I mean, it's part of our culture and our heritage to just be affirming and encouraging of our students, of our faculty, and our staff. I mean, you get in this community, you're going to be encouraged. You get in this community, you're going to be built up. You get in this community, you're going to be loved and supported. Which is, you know, and I've worked across the higher ed spectrum. There are no sets of institutions. There are no experiences like the experiences that you get at a historically black college or university.
Right. You know, I talk about being jealous. I went to PWI, predominantly white institution, TCU, which I love, but sometimes I feel like I don't get that extra connection that some of my friends that went to Hampton, Howard, Spelman, you know, Texas College, where my parents finished. I don't have that deep connection that they do to their alma maters. And I guess my question would be this, to those that are out there and would say, well, I understand why HBCUs existed to begin with, but why are they still here today? Can you talk to me about the importance of these schools?
Yeah, so, you know, you obviously you look at it historically, and you can see the historic mission of our institutions that we provided access and opportunity to individuals who might not otherwise have had access and opportunity to higher education or to education at all. Because Lane College starts at CME High School that begats Lane Institute that begats Lane College as we are today. Were it not for Lane College at that point in history, those individuals just right on the other side of Reconstruction would not have had access to education. Fast forward 137 years. I mean, we are yet providing access and opportunities for persons who might not otherwise have access and opportunity to higher education. I mean, you think about, let me just preach a little bit about Lane College. I mean, so
Please
Lane
do.
College, we serve the highest number of Pell eligible students of any institution in the state of Tennessee. I mean, and that's including the community colleges. We're providing these high achieving, all the potential in the world, all the swagger in the world students with an opportunity for a Christian liberal arts higher education experience and institution.
Wow.
That's something that's unique. Students in many cases would not have access, they wouldn't have the finances to afford that. Many of my students have been, and I like to just kind of walk through that kind of pattern. Many of my students have been legislated out of higher education at the state legislative level. The state legislature, you know, you look across the higher education spectrum. Lane College's student, our 75th percentile student, has an 18 ACT. I mean, that student's well prepared for a college. But you look across the body of higher education. For many institutions, you get in that 18 range, they're not recruiting that student. Many of the institutions, and certainly I don't want to cast dispersions on institutions where I worked prior to Lane College, they're not recruiting that student. That's a student. That's a student who can compete. That may be a student who does not test well. That may be a student who came out of a challenging academic environment or educational academic environment. But when that student gets into the higher ed environment, where all that's thinking about in the higher ed environment, all you're thinking about is going to class and going to the CAF, and no longer having to worry about the other kind of concern. That 18 becomes a 28 in terms of how he or she performs at an institution. So that student has been legislated out. Then at the institutional level, when institutions start to compete with one another, and we say, okay, so we want to have higher graduation rates, we want to have higher retention rates. What's the quickest way for us to get there? Well, what we do is we say, all right, well, then let's get higher ACT scores. And what a ACT score tells you is it tells you how much money the student's parents make. It doesn't necessarily, it can't tell you anything about that student's heart. It can't tell you anything about that student's work ethic. It can't tell you, it really can't tell you anything about that student's intelligence. It's directly related to how much money that student's parents have made. But institutions will use that still and make decisions about who they will give access to. And I mentioned earlier, with 95% of our students in any given year on Pell Grants, the reality is higher education. Our fees at Lane College are very affordable. I mean, our total direct cost is $18,850 for this year. I mean, so you literally could work part-time and receive a Pell Grant and receive a UNCF scholarship, and you could pay for your way. Pay for your way through Lane College. So we pride ourselves on being affordable and continue to give access to the students. So why do we need HBCUs? Because we are assets to our communities, providing education, empowering our students to be leaders in our community and beyond. And if we didn't exist, these tens of thousands of students would not have access, could not afford it, would not be here gaining and developing and having to being touched by the likes of L. Michelle Smith and Daryl.
And Daryl Bell.
You had 200. What do you have? 250 students, and you were surprised that you had more men than women.
I was surprised. That's rare. Here's another piece that I would love to debunk about HBCUs. Just because there's a B there does not mean it's black only. It's open to everyone, isn't that right?
Absolutely. We've never. I mean, we're the original Access Institute. We've never. Our institution have no legacy. We have no history of preventing anyone from coming to our institution.
Right.
That has not been at any point, any place in the history of HBCU. So we can celebrate. We've been the original diverse institute. We've been the original multicultural institution. It's always been about diversity and inclusion at the historically black colleges and universities. We didn't have to be trained on that. We are that.
Right, absolutely.
I feel like I need to have a mic drop.
Drop the mic. Absolutely. So before we let's talk about the leadership conference. So Daryl and I came in, and it was funny because I didn't know that he was going to be connecting in Dallas. We actually flew in on the same flight, got in the car with Chief Joy, and came on to Lane College for this event. So tell everybody what the leadership conference is all about. It was your first one, right?
Yeah, so it was our inaugural leadership conference. And, I have to give a shout out to Dr. Michelle Stewart, our Vice President for Academic Affairs. So very forward-thinking, very progressive. Dr. Stewart created and started the Women Empowerment Workshop that she started back in 2017. Great workshop, and they were doing just good work with that in empowering the women on Lane's campus and then in our community. And so we watched that happen, and a colleague of mine, Daryl McGee, who joined me here at Lane College just a few years ago. When we were together in Arkansas, we had a conference that was called the Brothers Keepers Conference that was funded by the Wendell Rockefeller Foundation. And we pulled together African-American mentorship programs from across the state of Arkansas that we gather at least once a year to talk about strategies and how to help African-American males be successful on our campus. And so McGee and I have been talking about, okay, so we've got to reinvent that here at Lane College. Well, we were, kind of, being busy doing other things, and earlier this year, I talking to Dr. Stewart, I said, well, Dr. Stewart, you're already doing the women empowerment piece. I said, so would you mind if we added men? And she immediately said yes. And so we started working on the leadership conference. and it was we had two tracks. We had the Women Empowerment Workshop, and then we also had the Brothers Keeper Empowerment track. But I also want to say, let me say this also. So the very first time that I really thought about pulling this together and doing the men and the women together was last year at commencement. So last year at our 2018 commencement, Van Jones was our commencement speaker. Van Jones, yes, the Van Jones. The Van Jones is he's the grandson of Chester Arthur Kirkendall. Bishop Kirkendall, but before he was Bishop Kirkendall, was President Kirkendall. He was president at Lane College.
Oh, wow.
And so Van Jones, I don't think he might be saying he grew up on this campus. I mean, he was, he was a little kid growing up and running around, and his grandfather was the president, who then would go on to become bishop. Well, Van Jones, so he comes back to do the commencement. Well, we were so excited to have Van Jones in town that we were throwing parties all over town. And so we had a big party at St. Paul Christian Methodist Episcopal Church, big reception and opportunity for people to just get together and celebrate him. And when Van Jones gets up to speak, he makes this statement. He talks about the Kirkendall Jones parts of his family. And he said something to the effect of the Kirkendall Jones expresses the diversity of my family. And he said, in my family, he said, there are those who are bougie, and then I have some that are street. And that's the two parts. I was sitting there in the congregation listening to him, and I thought, that's exactly what we've got to do. We've got to have a leadership institute that brings together the bougie and the hood and brings them together and trains and empowers them all. And that's a part of what we did was.
That's awesome, because you opened it up to the community. It wasn't just for student and faculty and staff, right? It was open to East Jackson.
It was open to East Jackson, and they were in the house. I don't know. I still haven't really done the count. I think we probably had about 200 or so students. So when you have that many students, it kind of it really feels like it's a student event, and not it doesn't. You didn't get really the full flavor of all of the community members.
But you had some politicians there, because I met someone who was running for mayor and some other folks.
Oh no, well, it is an election year, so
yes, it is. They all came.
So we could expect the candidates for mayors, candidates for city council. We certainly expected to see them there, and they were there. And we were pleased also to have our alums in the house. I mean, alums were very supportive. And I don't know how many people watched online. I mean, there were hundreds of folks who watched various sessions online. And although our students in mass comm are just, I tease and say, if you sneeze at Lane College, somebody's seeing it somewhere, because
you know what? And hats off to them, because under Ms. Peters' leadership, they really did a great job of getting that audio file and that video file just right for me for broadcast. I mean, this is a global broadcast, and it sounds great.
Well, I was so pleased with all the folks that were involved. I mean, it was just a great time. And I just thank everyone for just being willing to give. I mean, Darrell Bell gave up a weekend. Yeah. For a plane ticket.
Yeah. And some good food.
Good food.
We even got some Chick-fil-A. It was great.
And I mean, and just and modest support to come and to pour into Lane College students, as did you. I mean, we had folks from Coca-Cola, Federal Express, our law firms, we had first entrepreneurs. Perhaps the top entrepreneurs from this area. We had the Entrepreneur of the Year from Jackson Madison County. That was, I mean, and these were panelists, persons who gave up their weekend to pour into Lane College students.
Well, this is important work, right? I mean, you can't be it unless you see it.
Yeah, no doubt.
So, I mean, that's how I feel about it. I mentioned to you at that dinner, it was an NBC Universal dinner where 12 HBCU college presidents happened to be. And I walked in, it ran right into Logan in 2018, that I said to you and Miss Colette from Houston Tillotson, right? Shout out to Miss Colette, call me. But that it was important to me. I speak on university campuses all the time, but most of the time they're PWIs, right? Which is fine. There are students there that get a lot from it. In fact, there are black students there that get a ton from it. But on the whole, these are students that are a little bit more privileged than what we're talking about at Lane or Houston Tillotson or Philander Smith or some of the other groups that were there. And that's why I said to you that night, I was like, you know what? If you get me there and put me up, I'll speak. You
did.
And it touched me and ministered to me as much as it did to those kids. At least I hope so.
Well, hats off, celebrate. I mean, based on what, all the feedback that we're getting, it's just that, I mean, it was a home run. And your presentation was a home run. Your style, your sassiness, your creativity, you were, I mean, well, I love that piece where, you really challenge the students. And so I'm walking out and the student says, I've been thinking about starting a business. And I'm going to get going on it. I mean, because what was it? You say that three ways I'll challenge you to go. You get the job,
right?
More or less, then or create your own job.
Yes.
Or do both.
That's right.
I love that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I was thrilled at how many adults came to me and said, that was just the conversation I need to start thinking about. What am I doing on this earth? I'm trying to get it together. I'm 40 years old and I need to do something,
Absolutely.
And it's just challenged them to really think about it.
Well, and I need to say this to you also. So at the end of the conference, you and Daryl left by this time. So we're having our wrap-up sessions. We pull all the groups back together. We pull the men together, and we pull the women. We get them all back in the same room, and start the challenge. Okay, so what'd you learn? Who are you? What are your takeaways? Where do you want to go? And what was amazing is to hear your words, to hear Daryl's words coming back from those students who had listened to your message, internalized them, internalized that message, then made the message their own. And now is speaking the message back to us as in, this is who I am, this is where I am going.
That's golden.
No, that is. And so the sisters came back with this, what was that phrase? Husa, Hassa, what was that? What was that phrase?
Hasu. Okay, so it's HASU.
Yeah, okay.
And that comes from my sponsor, Cent Marshall, who is now the CEO of the Dallas Mavericks, first female CEO of an NBA team. And she has been speaking on this topic since she was working at AT&T for 30-something odd years. But whenever she's up on the dais and she's challenging women to reach back, reach across, or grab another sister, she says Hasu. And Hasu means hook a sister up. That's right. And you know what? If you live by that, everybody gets better.
Yeah, I love that. One of our students came in and was she was tossing Hasu.
Hasu. I love it. Sid would be proud. That's awesome. That's good.
Well, tell her she has people quoting her in Jackson, Tennessee.
I will let her know that. She will not be shocked. But that's great. I will tell her. It's a real testament, because when you're up speaking or you're communicating, what you're trying to do is use the most basic terms and the most memorable ways to tell those terms to make people do exactly what you just said. Not only just hear it, but say it and actually apply it. So that really makes me happy. That's awesome.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Good. So 1989. That's when I met you. Do you know that? That was my freshman year at TCU.
That was a few days ago.
Oh, come on now. Right. I tied this all together, the first part, the monologue on Daryl's episode, because I talked about how a different world was like in its heyday in 89.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's when I first remember seeing you on campus. And what were you doing at TCU?
I was coordinator of minority affairs and program advisor. Working in the office.
That's a long name. They need to rebrand.
I was working in the Office of Student Activities.
Yes. I just called you my student activity leader or something like that. But I know whenever something was going on with Black Student Caucus or the Greeks, they say, ask Logan.
Well, those were fun times. That was a great place to start my career. It was my first job out of graduate school. Fort Worth is a great town to be starting your first job in. TCU was a great place. I mean, it was a great model. Since I've been building in my career and ever since, and been building on the foundation that I was established as a professional at Texas Christian University, and working with persons like yourself. One of the things I learned there, because at TCU we had some of the same challenges at TCU that we have at Lane College. Because you remember, and I certainly don't want to call out any of your, and they can tell their own story, but some of your classmates who came from inner city Houston.
Sure.
I mean, and they needed every ounce of financial aid they could get to be able to afford the institution. And so it was right there that I learned the importance of those wraparound services, trying to give those students all of the support that we could help them to live up to their potential. Because there was nothing, it certainly was not, they had plenty of talent. There was nothing wrong with their brains. They had the test scores, they had the GPA. But when you walk into that campus, and you're driving, walking past students who are driving Porsche,
BMWs. Yes.
I mean, it's just, that can mess with your mind as a student. And so we needed that community. We needed the Black Student Caucus, the Hispanic Student Caucus. I mean, we needed to just kind of wrap some layers of support around the student. And we had persons who did that, in fact.
Right. Well, you were one of them. And I was so happy to run into you in Detroit last year and didn't realize that we would end up, I mean, look at us now, right? We're helping people out, and that's great.
No doubt.
He's the president, y'all. And I know y'all are probably like, she is really yucking it up with that college president. Like, who does that? But that's why we've known each other. At least we go back to like 1989. So I appreciate everything that you did, having me out to Lane College. It was a blessing to me. It sounds like it was a blessing to the students, the faculty, the staff, the community, everybody. And I can't wait to come back.
You must come back. Must come back. You have more work to do. You open some doors, and I mean, you open some conversations. And I mean, so you've got to come back, and you've got to do that that personal board.
The personal board of directors.
You've got to come back and do that session on personal board of directors and spend more time dealing with that.
I can either come back or I'll do a special 30-minute mentor session where your students, your faculty can log on online. And I do it by Zoom. It's pretty cool.
Oh, excellent. Oh,
yeah. But, I'm going to come back. But I'm just saying, there are ways to do things in between.
You must.
Yeah. Absolutely. Do you have anything else to add?
Well, let me just say again, L. Michelle Smith, thank you Thank you, one, for being you. Thank you for having the big heart. Thank you for being the professional that you are. And thank you for making a commitment, keeping that commitment, and spending the weekend pouring your gifts, your wisdom into our students. We're a better institution. We were blessed by your presence. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hampton. That's Dr. Logan Hampton, everybody, a.k.a. Logan, my student activity leader. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, friend.
Bye-bye.
Well, that wraps our double episode of the Culture Soup Podcast, episode 23. Who does that? Who drops 2 episodes in one day? Oh, us. Yeah. It was a great time. It's April 4th. Again, let's remember the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the day of his death, and also know the legacy that he left. He also went to an HBCU. He went to Morehouse. Yeah, Morehouse College in Atlanta. All right, coming up, April 11th, the 30minutementor.com, a free masterclass for anyone who wants to attend. It's on Authenticity 101, and we are tying it back to that Women's History Month series that we did where all of those ladies talked about authenticity. Or whether you're a woman, whether you're a man, come along and learn what it takes to be and do you. Get more information and sign up at the 30minutementor.com. Coming up next episode, we have 2 folks who used to work with me as agency partners, Roy Broderick and Ashina Roman of Intuition in Atlanta, Georgia. Until next time, have a good week. The Culture Soup Podcast is a production of No Silos Communication.